Well, hey there. I'm in the process of potting up my tomato plants. It's a little bit rainy out here in Portland. We're mid-April, Portland, Oregon, and it was almost 75 degrees outside the last couple of days, and go figure, now on a Saturday it is 50 degrees and rainy outside. So that's what it's like gardening in Portland. It's hard to plan your spring that way. But anyway, what I'm doing is potting up my tomatoes here. This is really the one. I've got like 14 different varieties that are in this tray here, which basically I just did the seedlings in the tray to prick them out like this, and then I put them into these containers here. These are gallon containers. I've been using 5.5-inch containers. I just ran out of those, so I'm now using the gallon containers. This variety is called the tomato berry, which I got from Territorial Seed. I planted it before, and it's a good tasting cherry tomato, but the fun thing about it is that it actually has this kind of almost heart shape that looks like a berry, almost like a strawberry to it. The seeds are relatively expensive compared to your kind of more common tomatoes. I actually only have 5 of these that germinated, so these are my precious crop this year, I suppose. As opposed to, say, my San Marzano, which I like growing a lot to create sauce, but I've got, I don't know, maybe 50 of those that germinated, so 10 times as many that germinated, and a much cheaper tomato to buy, tomato seed that is. So I like growing kind of these unique tomato plants here. All right. Okay, and I'm just taking the whole tag. Normally I create a new tag because I don't prick out everything for these bigger containers. I don't have enough space to plant everything in bigger containers, so I'm going to be planting up some of these others in kind of these smaller red cups, which is what I traditionally do. So this works just great. I mean, I can grow a tomato in this until the time that it goes into the field, but I was hoping, I'm trying to see if I give it more space and some fertilizer early on, if I can really make it grow quicker, since I feel like I'm kind of behind. Might be naive of me to think I can catch up that way. We'll see. Okay, so that's that, and I'll be doing that with a bunch of the other tomatoes. Well, hey there. Today I am planting these lupines. This row back here where these tulips are along this hedge, this was kind of my most successful flower border last year. I was able to have the tulips grow, and then they were succeeded by lupine, which is still in there. Lupine are perennials, so the lupine that I had in there before theoretically should be coming back, but I don't see it all coming back, and I've got a bunch of replacement plants that I planted out back last, I'd say I planted these maybe September-ish from seed, September 2019, and it's now April 2020, and so I overwintered them in the greenhouse. I actually didn't do that well with this. You can see this one's starting to flower here actually already, but I say I didn't do that well because I probably planted at least 20, maybe 30 of these red cups, planted these out. Probably I started in little cell trays first and then potted them up. After I had potted them up, though, I lost a bunch of the crop over the winter, and I didn't keep good notes, so I don't remember exactly why I lost the crop. I don't remember if it was because maybe I overwatered them or didn't water them enough. There were a couple of times where I think I lost some things because I wasn't keeping up on the watering in the greenhouse the way I should have. But anyhow, I did end up with, it looks like about 8 or so of these left, which is probably just enough to replenish this border. This works pretty well because they bloom right after the tulips die back. So I'm gonna start working on that and let you kind of watch what I'm doing. It's not too exciting. I just this flower grown from seed, I'm just going to take it out of the cup and then find the area where my lupine is not coming back as it was, and dig a little hole and stick it in there. So here you can see up close is what it's looking like. It's what the roots are getting somewhat bound there. That could stifle its growth a bit after I plant it, but it'll probably be okay. I mean, usually most of my stuff I don't time exactly right, and it usually works out just fine in terms of coming back. While I'm here, I may as well pull some weeds out. All right. Hi, well, what I'm working on here is this garden bed here around this tree. I'm just revitalizing it. I should have started shooting earlier so you could see what it looked like before. But it had, you can imagine being part of kind of a tree with a lot of needles and pine cones. That's what it was, a lot of needles and pine cones. So that's what was here, is a lot of needles and pine cones. So I raked up all the needles and pine cones with kind of a lawn rake, and then hauled those off the compost pile. And now I'm just putting a thin layer of kind of new attractive compost down to revitalize the bed. There's some columbine in here that we planted last year, and I'm going to be planting out the Japanese Primrose back here, along with maybe some pansies around the border. I don't know if I'll get it all done today. I have these old broken bricks that make up this border, and they kind of got buried over the last couple of years, so I've pulled them all out off to the side, and once we get everything in here, then we'll just put them back on top to kind of make a make a visual border, essentially. So that's pretty much it. Maybe I'll turn the camera back on when I'm planting the primroses. For now, I'm just shoveling compost over here. Okay, I got some new compost down. You can see I left a patch behind the tree there. Doesn't really need it. Didn't want to waste my compost that way. And what I'm doing is I'm putting out the Japanese Primrose and some pansies around here, just kind of situating them how I want to plant them. Those plants, actually, I watered the compost before I put those down. And then these Japanese Primrose really like kind of a nice moist environment, so I'm going to have to keep this area nice and watered. But I think that'll be fine. I don't see a problem with that. So yeah, Primrose and some pansies, and then there's the columbines from last year already in there. And then once I finish planting those, I'm not going to do it today because I'm quite tired now, actually, so I'm going to water these plants where they're at right now, just to make sure they get nice and watered, and then I'm going to call it a day. And then the next part of this project will be taking them out of the pots and planting them, assuming the spacing sits with me as I keep looking at it. And then I'll put these bricks back as kind of a casual border around this bed. That's it.